Yeah. So let's open the same integration procedure which was having some issue. Let's check. So that I have fixed. Let me show you what was the problem there. So see, in the conditional view, I was using not equal to this mark. Okay, in generally we use this mark in Apex and everywhere, but here it is not supported. This happened if you work on a two different languages. So see, the correct syntax here is not blank, and then we need to define the name. Once we do that, it will work fine. Let me show you. And yeah, this one change I did, and second change that I did is the here response. I have changed the node, and I am directly passing the detail section, which is coming from the data raptor. Right. So yeah, this extract action, whatever value it is coming. Let me first show you. I think I made some changes here also. Yeah, so this is the behavior. This is how the data should return inside the details. Everything should be copied like that only, right? So here, first change that I made in the condition was this. I just changed it to is blank to is not blank and repeat the same information, which is ID, right? Second change that I did is in the response action. Here, if you open the additional output, you will see I'm passing in account, I'm passing the full detail path. Okay, so let's check how it will show. Okay, it's asking for the name. Let's property and check. Um, yeah, name. We can give acme and then we can execute it. So you will see this status okay 200 and it is returning the full information, right? All this three information and it is working fine, right? Similar ways, if I try to do this in what is the name? Postman. So it will also work fine. But before that, we need to activate this. Okay. Any questions on it? Or any questions related to the previous classes? Okay. Let me workbench. What is the difference between calling it from Workbench and Postman is since Workbench is using the authentication from Salesforce, so we don't need to explicitly deal for the authentication tokens now. But if I make the same request to Postman, we need to deal with the authentication. It is still failing. Let's see. It is working like that only. Okay. So today, continuing the same topic, what we will do is we will create we will call our integration procedures from another integration procedure. Okay, and then we will call integration procedure from OmniScripts, and then we will use the third property of integration procedure, which is the optimization. Right. So those three things we will do today. Okay, so for that, remember we have created one more integration procedure, which was making a weather API call. Right. So let's open that. And in that same integration procedure, we will call our the new this one also. Right. So this one is, I think. Okay. It is making a web API call for the external system. Right. So we will treat this as one integration procedure and this one is a different integration procedure. What we will do, I will call this integration procedure from this IP. Okay, let's do that. For that, we need to drag the integration procedure here. Okay, the moment you drag it, it will ask you to fill the name. Okay, the concept remains the same. The identifier identification of this integration procedure is not the name, it's the combination of type and subtype followed by underscore. this one. So this is something that we configured, and since this integration procedure is also requiring one additional parameter, so let's say how we can pass this actually. Yeah, so you can see this integration procedures is having a set value, and this set value is requiring account name, right? So here we need to go and pass the payload. Let me actually switch to Lightning, otherwise it will be showing the same scroller exceptions. Okay. Yeah. Now I will see I have selected this. In the remote option, we need to give the values here. So the value is account name, right? Account name, and here we need to pass the exact value. So what I will do, we will first do the same thing. We will not pass anything into this, and then we will check. So before actually, this is the requirement here. I mean, this is the prerequisite, you can say. If you calling integration procedure outside, you need to first make it activated. Okay, the similar thing how we will do it did yesterday when we call the integration procedure from Workbench, we need to make it activated, right? Same thing here as well. You can do the only possible option when you actually working on integration procedure you want to debug is this preview. Okay. Apart from this, we have to activate the integration procedure before we call it anywhere. If we not activate it, the script, wherever we use it, wherever we refer it, it will throw an exception by saying that this integration, why this name is not. Okay. So yeah, here before we check any of these checkbox, let's first check what is the default behavior here, right? So let's go and take a preview. Uh, here it is a weather API. What should be the default action? It should fire this and then that, right? So let's go to the debug mode and execute it. Okay, you will see nothing there, and you can say now like this will show you the entire JSON. Now let's check how we will debug it. Usually we need to go to the integration procedure action, right? Here you can say the output that we have configured is showing correctly. The return response, it is saying 400 error, and it is saying null exception, right? Because we have not passed anything into it. But the thing that I want to show you is this. This is the input that we are sending to the request. See how much data we are unnecessarily sending, right? Here, if I go back to the properties, we only need this node, which says what is the account name, what is the name of your account. But since we have called this after the weather forecast step, that means all the output of weather forecast will be treated as an input, and the response will be sent like that only. Okay, so this is something that we need to take care. We always have to think wisely which output we are sending, right? So yeah, let me show you uh, the response. Yeah. It is not yeah, you will only see it when you click on it, right? It is 400. Now let's do one thing. Now to handle this scenario, you first need to do is you first whenever you actually configure the integration procedure, first just check this checkbox. Okay, this is something I if I am someone who work on velocity, I will make this thing as a default. Why? Because this will restrict all the nodes to send unnecessary information. Okay. Now we have not passed anything. I just check this checkbox. Now let's check how the difference will how it will make a difference, right? I will open this here also. can see so much information is there. Now let's trigger it again. Okay, now you can see the response. Let me actually show it here. Integration procedure, it is showing the same thing. Let's go to the full debug. Actually, let me uncheck and then send it again so that it will be clear. Just keep an eye here. Okay. This is still showing blank. JSON. Yeah. I go there and I check this. Just a second, let me check the difference here. So that is the full path that it is sending. Yeah, this is it. And it is strange. Let's use diff checker to check the difference. So see the behavior, let me show you. Previously, even in my sandboxes also, when we check this checkbox, it will not send any information unless, I mean, it will not send any information even we have not configured anything into the additional input, right? We have only given the remote options here and we have not configured anything into the remote action and we just check this checkbox. Even if you check this checkbox, it will stop sending all those nodes. But here the behavior is, I think, different. We have to give any input here also. Then only it will stop it. Like, I have used this additional input and provide anything into the input node. Okay. Now if I go and click on the execute and you go and check it there, then you will observe we are only sending this as an input, right? So I think this is because of this org or some new update that they guys did. But yeah, previously when we click on this checkbox, it will stop sending anything. Okay, so that is the advantages. But yeah, I think because of this, or maybe they have updated that logic, we have to give something into the additional input as well, right? So now, since we have configured this, we can remove this node and simply go and click on the execute. Okay, and if I go and check the output, it will say this error, and the response that we are sending, it will show this here, right? So this is how we basically work on it. The next thing is, even if you have configured this thing like that only, but maybe the value that we actually want to pass is something which is inside this tree, right? Maybe this weather API is something which is driving a response, and that response is something that we need to feed in as an input. So in that case, what we need to do, we need to follow the same structure. We need to use the percentage mark. We need to define the name here, like weather forecast. Yeah. And inside that, we need to give it like that only. Okay. And then whatever the value that it is sending, let's check it out. Let's say we want to send the name, right? So we can directly go there and use the name here. So in that case, the value that is retrieved from the above node can be passed directly from here. You can again go and configure the other values also if you have configured it. If your API is configured in such a way, so you can pass additional inputs here as well, right? Now, if you do that, okay, you will see now it is not returning that error, and it is not even returning anything. Why? Because there's no account name Delhi. That's why it is showing like that. But yeah, I was just showing this, that this, since it is a formula expression, that means it also accept the way we want to send the information. Okay, here if we use ECME, then it will work like that only, right? If I execute it, and if you go and check the procedure, you will see it is returning the response now. And since we got the response, and we have in the JSON, you can see we have created a node into the account. Now we can access this information. We just need to use the append. We just need to append this name, integration procedure action one and this dot account name, right? And then we can access all this information. Okay, so this is how the integration procedure works. Let me again give you a recap. First thing that we need to do is, first we need to go to the integration procedures and configure this thing correctly, right? All the parameters that we need to pass, which is dynamic attributes, you can first need to define it into set values and add those nodes here, right? You need to define a temp variable. Here you can name it anything, but make sure you follow the percentage mark. Okay, since this field is also a formula field, there you can add any null exception checks or anything into that level only, right? Let's say if the information that you want to retrieve is only expecting the text character, right, and it is returning into its string, then you can also convert this thing into text here only using the formula fields, right? Or you want to send a combination of this, like that account dash or some other information, you can combine this thing as this level. Okay, so basically this set value is the first entry of your integration procedure in most of the time, where you just need to define all those things like that only, right? Account name in our case we have defined, but maybe there are 10 or 15 parameters. All you need to you need to define it and that. Okay, then you need to first make a conditional blocks. Why conditional blocks? Because we have to deal with the negative scenarios as well, because we are exposing our APIs to the other persons, other systems. Then we need to take care what type of action we need, what type of response we need to send them in case they are using a wrong data, right? So all those things you need to configure here. And then finally we need to, once it is once you find that okay, this is the perfect response, then you need to use the data raptor or any other logic. You can fire apex, you can use remote actions, you can call any other integration procedures here as well. Then you need to retrieve the data. Okay, once you get the data, again you need to use the response to feed that back. Okay, once you get the data, you need to show something to, you need to revert that back to someone, right? So that's why you need to use the response action here again. Okay, well, this is something we have made the call for external systems, right? Even if we use integration procedure for optimize the process, we have to use remote action there as well. Okay, so don't consider remote action as something which can only be used if we are interacting with a third party. Okay, any type of data, if we need to send back to OmniScript or anywhere, then we need to use this integration procedure. Sorry, this remote action. Any questions?
So how we can differentiate remote action and integration procedure?
Remote action Remote action is basically used to call external, sorry, to call any Apex class, right? And integration procedure is used to call the external system.
Both in Apex also we can do the call out, right?
Yeah, Apex also you can do the call. Even you can do it directly in Apex, but for that you need to write the codes, right? You have to deal all the situations that we are actually dragging and dropping it. You have to use all those things in Apex. So you can do that. No one is stopping you to do this. But yeah, this is integration procedure is that capable to do, you know, so much in so much it reduce our efforts to do the coding. Okay, so that's why integration procedure is advantageous. It has its own advantages.
Is this similar to the web service in Apex?
Yeah, it is similar to the web service. It is also similar to expose the APIs to invoke external system. I mean, all those things that we basically do in integrations in Apex class, we can all do those things here as well. Okay, and the behavior is also same because there also we need to use something to feed back to the system who's calling it. Here they call it in a response action. So see, whenever you work on integration procedure, think like you're developing a Apex class and create all those scenarios in your mind that, okay, this is the scenario, this is the scenario, and this is the scenario. Where you also need to cover the happy paths, you also need to cover something if some mismatch or any in case of any exception. Here, remember when I give the in weather API, there is a data which is coming and the city name is Delhi, right? I pass the same name here, right? Previously, weather API and get Delhi. But in that case, the API was not returned anything. It's not written any account and it also not written anything into the success message. Why? Because we have not configured this option here in the condition. We have to add a condition like if this data raptor is blank, then we need to show them the response that the input that you have sent is not matching with the system, something like that. And then we need to send that back to the server who's calling it. Right, so those type of things we generally do in integration procedures when we actually make when we use it as a when we actually expose our services to other systems.
Okay.
Okay,
The response action is on, it won't send data back to OmniScript, right?
yeah, it will
Response.
send the data back to OmniScript.
Okay.
Yeah,
Then how, I'm just trying to understand how then remote action will be useful here.
see,
Okay.
remote
Remote
action,
okay.
let me tell you what remote actions can do here. Let's say here we are making a call through, we get the data. Okay, we someone is invoke our API, we ask them to put the account name. Okay, and they then we says, okay, account name is valid. Then once we get the account name, we need to do something right with that account name. Here we are making a SOQL call to get all the data related to that, right? But you can use a remote action to call a Apex class. Maybe you have your refer classes which do something and then return the response, right? So
Mm.
all those things you need to handle here. Once you get the response, you need to like this is also returning the response, right? The response
Mm.
that we are getting is with this element name, and the
Yeah.
same thing we have passed here. So similar thing you also need to do here. You need to call a remote action, and you need to deal what information you are sending in a remote action into which node.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so same thing you need to do here as well, but
Mm.
it is preferable not to do remote action because we only want to do, we are installing, we are paying Velocity because we don't want more customization. We want to explore all the things that Velocity can do for us without coding, right? So those
Mm.
options you can actually explore here itself. There's so much things that the integration procedure can do.
Mm.
Okay, so
Yeah.
this is it. And yeah, now let's do one thing. Let's call this in a uh, OmniScript. So this part is clear, right? Integration procedure from calling from an integration procedure, right? This is the scenario.
But here we haven't checked whether the response has the data or not. Here what we are doing, like we are passing the account name. It
Right,
Yeah. Then we haven't configured the response action if we get a result or not.
right,
Right.
right. Those things we need to do here.
Yeah.
This is something that I will create an assignment and then make a complex requirement. Then I was expecting you guys to do that. But as a concept, I just shown you how you need to handle if something is blank, how you need to handle once the value inside this is there, and then you need to send this in response. Here you need to make a else clause where you just need to define this thing like that only. How you can make a else clause? You just need to define a condition and check this checkbox. It will treat as if else. Okay, but make sure you're calling it after this only. Okay, let's say there's a data raptor and I want to check this, then it will not work because there's no subsequent condition again on the top of it.
Mm.
Okay, so similar ways how our if and else condition happen. First there should be if and then should be if else, right? Same thing you can do. And if this is the last condition, it will automatically treat it as a else.
Okay.
Okay, and one thing that I forgot here, you will see something internal notes in all the sections. What this internal note does, it basically like I am uh, this task is assigned to me and I worked on it and I finished this task. Okay, then when I actually go and submit this thing to the production, I usually write I should actually write something into here which actually defines why I add this condition, what is the purpose of this condition. Okay, so that someone apart from me who work on it, they will just read those lines and they can understand, okay, this is something this was added because of that. Okay, you can consider this internal notes as comments that we do in Apex classes. In the comment we write the purpose of the method and all those things. Same things we need the Velocity providers as an internal notes. Okay, so yeah, to answer the question, yes, we need to configure it that level that if any thing happened into that, we need to revert it back. Even if you do the DML and any exception happen, you also need to revert that back. Okay, but how you will revert is the same thing using response action and using a condition basically. Now let's open a Omnis script. Let's use this. Yeah, this one will be the perfect example. There are three sequentially used actions. Okay, so let me deactivate that and use it. Okay, so let's first go and drag a integration procedure. Okay, here we have dragged it after so many steps, right? This is the, let's say this is the place where we need to do the actions, but again we need to activate our integration procedures. Now let's say this is the procedure, and then you need to just scroll down and you will get the name. Okay, and whatever the parameters that your integration procedure is, this is not activated. Okay, this one actually, okay. this one we are calling, right? So all the parameter that it is expecting, we need to copy the name, and here we need to go to the extra payloads option. Whenever you go to the OmniScript, you need to drag it, and all those parameters that you are basically sending, you need to configure it in extra payload. Okay, you need to give all those options. After then, you need to define the value. Again, the concept here is also same. You need to use percentage mark to retrieve the value here itself, right? So let's say if we have account name, yeah, this is the account name, right? Then use percentage mark, use count, then two, and then you need to use the name. Okay, this will pass the account name value. And let's not configure anything, any other options here. Just use the same and see how it will work now. Let's do. So let me open the debug. Okay, so it run this steps. I think after the next, it will work all those four actions. Okay, let's check it out. Okay, just check how much time it is taking to do all those things. So it is stuck to this level. Post action. Yeah. So remote action. Exception to string. Invalid conversion map string to string. Let's do one thing. Let's deactivate that. Okay, and check it again. Clear that. All those options, I think, not correctly. Log to email is blank. Let's do it. Hmm. Okay. Next. Hmm. Let's deactivate this also. I think I'm using the different order. The thing that I want to show is how this will work if we drag it like that only, right? So okay, now we will see the integration procedures is get called. Okay, you can see in the request we have sent this much unnecessary information. Let's expand it. See all the previous notes that it is sending all this information here. Okay, step one, account, blog, contact, all those information it is sending, and it is yeah, all these things it is sending there itself, right? And in the response, you will see the actual data that we actually need to take care. Okay, so this is how the default behavior it shows. It will send you all this information even if we don't requiring that. Okay, we just need to send this account name, which is send it explicitly. So how we can control it actually? Let me first show you. Again, you need to go here, integration procedures. There is no explicit option. You just need to use the same send and response section, right? Here you need to use which node you want to send. In our case, we just want to send the extra payload. And what is the name of the payload? It is the account name, right? So we just need to maintain this thing. Okay. And yeah, let me show you here. The next. And then you will see in the request, it is only sending the information that we need, right? And in the response, it is returning the data. So now there are two things. One is which value we are sending. Second is how we can show the response that is written by the integration procedure, right? So there are two things. So first thing is clear, right? How we can restrict to send only the information that we are requiring, right? We just need to go to the send path here. And here we just need to configure the send JSON path node, right? And it will automatically taken care of. Next thing is, let's say, let me do one thing. Let me add a step. I will tell you what I'm doing is, but what I'm actually trying to do, I want to print whatever response is written by the integration process. For that, I need to do some changes into the OmniScript level. So first change is usually see the data that it is returning it in the list format. So what element that we need to do to handle the list is at least we need to use the block, right? Same thing I'm configuring here. We need to use the whether we can use edit block or we can just use block, let's say. Yeah, just I'm dragging the block at this level inside the block. Now we can show the input fields. Okay, maybe text. Let's drag a couple of text here. So this three fields we have configured. Okay, so if I go make a preview, you will see those nodes are added here, right? Now let me open the debug panel. Response, you will see the information is inside this account. Okay, and then there is a name, ID, and account number. These three things are there, right? Let me first write this thing here, which is the name. Not what because the name is already in use. So let me change this to not letting me edit it. I have renamed this to 1 and 2, and here now it will work. The next thing that I need to use is the ID. Say we also want to show the ID. Steve we want to use. Let's delete this. Well, it is not letting me edit this ID now. It's me. It's only display these two fields, name and the account name. Now see, we have yeah, so you can see there, this is the structure that we want to display here. Let me do one thing. Let me add the account here. I will tell you what I'm actually doing. Let me first set up that. Okay, that's the name of the block account. Okay, now let's do the preview and check. Clear that. And creation procedure. No, I think we also need to change it to 2. Well, okay. So it made one call. When we do the next, it will call the server API. Now you will see nothing is showing here. And if you check the debug log here, you will see the information that server is returning is not displaying here, right? But into, if you go and check this thing here, the response, you will see it's not even returning here also. Count block 12. Name 12. It is there. Just a second. It is also showing blank in the name. So let's configure this element name. Okay. There. Let's check. Okay, here you will see the value is now showing as a repeat option. Okay, why? Because the data is mapping with the correct node. Okay, now yeah, let me show you what I did basically. So I did some change here. I used the same name that we are passing here, and I'm bypassing this value, and directly into the input feed I have configured this node. Okay, that means it will now directly call our integration process. Once it called the integration procedure, it will return the response, and it will check this similar way. It will check what is the node. Is there any node with name account? If it is found, then it will send all this information and assign back to that node. Okay. Now, if you go preview, you will see this value is now repeated here and it is showing correctly. Right now, let me give you one scenario. Let's say first you have worked on the OmniScript. Okay. And in your OmniScript, you have named this node to, let's say, node details. Okay, let's say you have named this thing like that only, right? And you, due to some reason, you cannot change this because you think maybe it is a risk to change this value at this moment. Maybe I have used it somewhere else also, which is probably fine. When we once define a node, we have to check it so many times before we change it, right? So in that case, how we will handle is this. We need to go and use the send JSON node option, right? Here we need to just define the node that is now changed with this thing. Okay, getting it what I'm trying to say. Let's say the name of your parent node is different, but the integration procedure that it is returning the value, it is something different. Then how it will show into the OmniScript is because it will not show. Why? Because there is a mismatch into the parent nodes, JSON parent nodes. And since this is the rule of thumb, once it will only display the information if there is an exact match, right? So to overcome this information, we will leverage this option, which is mm, inside the integration procedure. We need to go to the send and response. Here we need to use the send JSON node. Now what it will do, it will rename the account detail and it will use the same thing here as well. Okay, this is how it will work. Any questions on it? Is it clear? Let me repeat again. See, integration to integration procedure is clear, right? Now let me repeat whatever I have done in the OmniScript. The first thing is that you need to do, you need to drag your integration procedure, right? And into the extra payload, you need to define all the parameters that you have set into the set values. Okay, all the set values at element name, you need to give it under the extra payload option, right? And now it is purely up to you or the logic from where you are retrieving this value. Okay, you can give it a percentage mark and you can retrieve something in first step, or you can also use something inside any blocks also, right? This thing you need to give here. After that, the next step that you need to do is you need to go and define the actual node that you want to send on. Here I'm just using the extra payload option, which I just want to send this information, so I just directly use that. Okay, but maybe in your case you probably need to send this account tree. In that case, you can directly write account. Then the feed will send only the account information. Okay, clear? And after then, once you do that, what it will do, it will then send you the data that is written by your data raptor or integration procedure. Here it is returning this tree. Inside this tree, we have configured the entire path. Okay, and it starts with the account, small a account, right? Since in our situation, if you are building it first time, then you can define a block. Okay, and you can name whatever you have configured in your in your integration procedure, which is account small a. You can define it here itself. But if there is any, due to any reason, the value is not a exact match and you cannot change the value, then still we have an option which is native option in integration procedure, where we just need to go to the send and JSON response. Actually, this is not the correct place. You need to define it under the here response JSON node. Okay, now what it will do, it will change the response value and feed it like that only, and then it will do a mismatch. Then the mismatch condition will be resolved and it will display the data. Okay, now again, it is purely up to the behavior in the business requirement, what type of data it is returning. Here it is returning the data in list, right? So that's why I have used a block here. And I also check this repeat checkbox. If the data is written in a single string, then we need to probably store it in a simple text and display it, right? So this is how we actually display the data to back to the users. Okay. Any question up to this level? Okay, I'll treat it as a no. So the next use of integration processor is to handle this scenario. Let's say we have let's say we have these three sequential calls that we are making: uh, data raptor, remote action, and email action, right? These three we are making. So we can remove all those three things from the OmniScript, and we can use those three directly into the integration procedure and call one integration procedure here. Even since this is also considers, we can also consider this thing as integration procedure, but we can also call this thing there also. So so what I want to say is all those four steps we can convert into one and display it here. Okay, this we will check tomorrow. Why? Because this remote action is not working. Maybe whatever I have done here, I will move it to the new org and then we'll match and make it work. And then in the next class we will directly check how we can optimize the performance of OmniScript by using integration procedure, which is the last third scenario, the third use case of using integration procedures. Okay, and there is also something called use future is chainable. All those things we will discuss tomorrow. Okay, this one more important thing, which is invoke mode, right? This is also we will check tomorrow, and what is the use case of it. Okay, any questions up to this level? Just try it by yourself. I mean, maybe at a first view you will be confused, but when you actually try it by yourself, you will see it is quite easy if you compare this with Apex class. Okay, it's quite easy. It just we need to sometimes, like how it is happening, and when I change the name of this to 12, it stopped taking the value, and I think this is because of some native exception that it is throwing. Maybe because of that it is not working. But yeah, in terms of configuration part, it is a bit we have to take care about what value we are passing. But in terms of logic part, it is quite easy because you can actually see which value is going where, and the debug option is very handy here. And if we compare this with Apex class, we need to actually write debug statements and view it into the log levels. Okay, then I pause for any question. Okay, then we can break the call. Maybe tomorrow we can meet at the same time and then discuss about those points. Tomorrow we will also check how what are the difference if we enable the OmniScript to LWC, and from tomorrow onwards we will work on LWC only, right? There's an option where we can enable the LWC, and when which scenario we should not enable LWC. Those things we will discuss tomorrow. All right, thanks.
Thank you.